Welcome to the Tactical Dad podcast. I'm your host, Matthew Cook, and I am the Tactical Dad. I've just been playing around for the last 10-15 minutes to make sure I'm pointing the microphone the right way, so hopefully the audio is a little better on this. Today's episode, episode 63, we are talking about becoming a skilled shooter, a great shooter, improving your shooting skills, and I'm going to touch on the last point, the last word, because I gave 3 elements of this in our last podcast, and the last one was challenge point. So we're going to go more into that because I think it's a good one to start with, because I'll be able to show and explain the whole lifespan of going from a novice to an expert, quite broadly, but it will help anyone new or anyone that's sort of plateaued in their ability. It will help you understand maybe why and how to get past that, how to get over that hump, or how to get started. So challenge point is a theory around matching the individual's skill level with the difficulty of the task or the challenge, hence challenge point. And the idea is to make that challenge point just a little harder than what the person is capable of doing. So, for example, if we're going to do a shooting drill and let's say 5 attempts at a shooting drill, and obviously I'm talking broadly here, but if you can achieve success with that drill 3 out of 5 times, then the challenge point should be increased slightly, just slightly, not much. If you can obviously do it 5 out of 5 times, the challenge point definitely needs to be increased. It needs to be more difficult. If you can do it once, twice, or 0 times, then that if you can do it 0 times, the challenge is too high. The challenge point is too high. If you can do it once or twice, then it's about the right challenge point. So, and this obviously can be subjective as well to an instructor, to a coach who's there in the moment looking at, if it's you that's learning, the instructor can look and have, there's obviously always an element of personal opinion and personal context, understanding where this person is, where they're going, and how they might adapt. But as a general basis, 3 to 5 out of 5 would be challenge point needs to get harder. 1 to 2 is you're at the sweet spot. 0, the challenge point is too high. And so this way, you could just see how the drills, the strategies, the tactics that you do in practice need to always be adjusted, evaluated, reevaluated, adapted, so that the challenge point is always where it should be, and that will continue to push you. If you're doing the same things now that you've done for years, then that is a good indication as to why you might be hitting a plateau. And obviously for someone that's brand new, doing activities and drills in a controlled environment, safe, slow, controlled environment is best, because the complexity and level of difficulty and what's going on in that individual's mind is a lot. It's a lot of information, it's a lot to think about, there's a lot of movements to do. For an expert, it's not. That's already hardwired and automatic. But for someone brand new, that is a lot. So that's why the challenge point needs to be adjusted. And over time, as you improve, the challenge point adjusts. And before you know it, years down the line, you've reached a certain level where it's very difficult to get the challenge point a little harder or to the sweet spot, because you're that good. So that's how the challenge point theory works, and it's a very, very useful piece of information for you as someone that might be learning, or for a coach to have, because it'll help guide you along the way. You should always be looking at, is this the right level of difficulty? And think of it in terms of learning to drive a car. Like most people drive, I'm going to assume like most of the world drives. I just need to drink my coffee. So when you first learn to drive, especially where I'm from in England, it's accelerate and then ease off the gas, clutch down, change gear, slightly accelerate, relieve the clutch to find the bite, accelerate so you don't stall the car. And you got to do all that whilst constantly looking at your rear view mirror, both your wing mirrors, and looking at where you're driving and steering the wheel. You got to do all of that, and then you have to also look at the dash in front of you and notice that when you get to around 3,000 RPM, you got to go up a gear, and then when you're around 2,000 to 2,500 RPM, you want to come down a gear. Like all of that is going on, and that says you first learned to drive. But now, after you've driven for, let's say you've driven for years, you don't even think of that. You do all of that whilst thinking about what you're going to do wherever you're going. Or if you're coming home from work, you're thinking about what you're going to have for dinner, or what you're going to watch on TV, or whatever it is that you're going to do. You don't think about any of them elements of driving the car. So that's where challenge point comes in. If you were that person and you were like, you know what, I want to learn to be a rally driver. I want to learn to drive on tracks at 100 miles an hour, then your daily driving should be different to where you have to now start to engage cognitively and consciously be aware of what's going on, and you need to feel overwhelmed with information and trying to adjust, and you need to fail at a few things and in a safe way. It's like safe failure to improve your skills. So the challenge point would have to adapt. But as a general person, you only need to learn to get to a certain level to drive safely back and forth from wherever you commute. But that's just a good example of when you first start, you have to take into consideration all of them elements. Now you don't. Same with learning anything. It's still more to learning. Driving a car is moving your body, moving muscles, moving hands, legs, feet, looking this way, that way. It's no different from that movement, other than like the range of movement and the order of movements. There's no different. It's still movement. There's no difference from that to hitting a golf ball, to shooting a gun, to kicking a soccer ball, to throwing a football, to throwing a pitch. It's movement. So that's all on that. Challenge point, look it up. It's a great theory, really good. I can't remember the person that did the initial research now. Challenge point. I can't remember. I'll try and remember it. I'll put it in the notes in the podcast or something. But thanks for joining me. That's all from me on that matter. We'll talk probably about challenge point in the future. Appreciate you joining me. Speak to you again soon.